Fantastic. Heineken, thank you. I mean, I've been doing a little bit of background work and looking at what Heineken actually does. And I mean, I always find it amusing. How does like a booze company have the sustainable water thing? But that's me, the dumb mind of mine. But I think it's a company that all of us don't necessarily know exactly what it is that you guys do behind the scenes, and some of the amazing innovations that you've come when it comes to water and scarcity. And I'm going to get to that in a short while. I'm not going to put it out there right in the beginning, because I want to start with kind of the basics. When we talk about this circular economy and we talk about this whole African context, urgency is what we need to do. So I'm going to start right at the end over there. What are the most, would you say, pressing sustainable challenges that Africa faces today, and why is the circular economy so important?
Yeah, thanks you for that, yeah. And I think the real problem is, in terms of the circular economy, one of the key principles we need is extended producer responsibility.
Oh, I think we need a handheld up here. It just looks like our mics are playing games with us.
No, this is okay. Sounds a bit better. Is that okay?
Sounds okay, but I'm going to still ask for the mic just in case.
Please.
We can have it here on stage with us. Thank you. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, this works for now.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
All right, let's go again. All right, in terms of sustainability and circular economy, people think, it's easy, it has to be done, we need to do it. However, what we have seen is, for the circular economy principles, which also is proposed by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, what one needs is the implementation of extended producer responsibility. Countries in Europe have been practicing extended producer responsibility since the 1990s. South Africa is the first of the 54 countries in Africa that has implemented extended producer responsibility as legislation. There are two other countries in Africa which are following, which is Kenya, who has made significant advances, as well as Ghana. However, that leaves us with still 51 countries who haven't done anything in terms of extended producer responsibility. And I don't think it's really not because of effort or initiative. What the real issue is extended producer responsibility, for those who don't know. It is producers who place, I'm talking primarily paper and packaging for now, especially glass packaging, who place it onto the market, need to take ownership when it reaches the end of its useful life. Mm. And in Europe, and I find it strange, we have some multinational companies operating in South Africa. They have been practicing EPR internationally, but when we talk to them about EPR in South Africa, you get a blank response, where there's different rules for Africa and there's different rules for Europe. The other problem we have as well in Africa is, similar to extended producer responsibility, we have a term which we coined ultimate producer responsibility. A lot of countries, or Western countries, send their used goods to assist Africa. But actually those used goods are of absolute no value to South Africans. To Africans, we become the dumping ground of European nations because they don't know what to do with it. So as I say, extended producer responsibility is critical to meet the requirements of the circular economy. And really my call to all African countries would be, we need to implement extended producer responsibility. We have our regulations in South Africa. They're not perfect, but we have made significant strides. And I believe we need to share this with our sister countries in Africa in terms of our expertise we have with extended producer responsibility.
Yeah, that's interesting, Prof. And I like.
I'm not a prof as yet.
Not. Can't I mean...
Sorry, Liad.
I'm sorry, now you've upset me. All of these... I'm sorry, I've got you down as professor. We've given you one. Okay, well done. But anyway, I'll just call you Neissan then, so we'll fix that up for you. But, okay, so if we look at all of this, and Shabeer, I'll bring you into the conversation now. If we look at kind of the dumping ground that you talk about, because that worries me. I mean, I've heard about this, but there must be policy and regulation around all of this from governments. I mean, no. from African governments. You want to carry on there?
Because even second-hand goods, if I may go on, a lot of second-hand goods are passed on. Now, these extended producer responsibility fees are paid in Europe by the brand owners, producer responsibility organizations who need to take care of the product at the end of life cycle. Don't pass on the fees back to those goods that have come into Africa. That money stays in Europe. So how can African economies and African countries really implement extended producer responsibility when the funds are still lying across the ocean?
Yeah.
So really it is a huge challenge, and I believe this is something that African countries need to stand up and not just accept the waste of other countries, as the Chinese have done when they put in a ban to export of recyclables.
Yeah. Okay. So now I bring the good professor into the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's quite interesting what's been spoken about. I want to add your voice into this because it's something that obviously from the practical side of glass recycling, and you see this happening, but let's talk from the academic side of things. Where are we?
Sure. So thank you, Leanne. Obviously, if you ask a macro question about sustainability to a development economist, you're going to get a big answer. So I want to first put it out there that when we talk about sustainability, we always think about environment, and I think this discussion is really about environment. But we have to remember that sustainability is not just environment. There's social aspects, there's economic aspects, there's governance aspects. And as a few people have said, the environmental sustainability is very much a northern drive, a European drive. And even a lot of the corporates here, their headquarters are in Europe. And this is why we are talking about environmental sustainability. But as Africans, if we want to talk about sustainability in Africa, it's a little bit different for us. We have bigger social problems that we need to address before we still have immense poverty. We still have unemployment. We have huge inequality. As we speak, half of our population in this country doesn't have a shelter, doesn't have clean water, doesn't have food on the table, doesn't have access to education for their kids or access to healthcare. These are problems that we are still struggling with. And so we have to be careful, to not completely be driven by the wave of the Northern agenda. Because we have to deal with this. Madam Deputy Minister talked about this. We can, if Africa in general contributes about 3% to the carbon emissions of the world, yet we get most of the impact. Most of the impact of climate change, we feel it 2 times more than the rest of the world. You all have seen what has happened in Cape Town, in Durban, in Mozambique, in Malawi. This is a result of climate change. But we are the least culprits responsible. At the same time, I have to say, within Africa, as Leanne was saying, South Africa is a beacon of light in this dark continent. So we have, interesting enough, although the whole continent contributes only 3% of emissions, South Africa is among the biggest polluters of the world. We are, I think, number 12 or 13 in the world of 200 plus countries. So, and interesting enough, of all of our emissions of our country, there's 2 companies, 2 national companies that is responsible of these. And I think you all know which these 2 companies are. And because we are a coal-based economy, we cannot shut down. If we tell Madam Minister, please shut down all your coal industry, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't have the lights on. We wouldn't be able to drive our car with Sasol fuel to come here. Dozens of millions of our people will lose their jobs. Not only the people who work in the energy sector, in the coal mining, but all the supply chain. So we need to be careful when we are trying to talk about these just transitions. It's not just about suddenly changing technologies and going solar panels and electrical cars. We have to look at our context and sustainability in the bigger package of things. And this is not just a technology change. It's about behavioral change. Consumer. Earlier, Anya talked about our gadgets and being more responsible as consumers. we can also start with, as consumers, all of us, to make these changes required. So some of it is, so for example, myself as an advisor, as an economist, when I used to work for one of the big four consulting firms, I used to travel like in a year to 30 countries, and I would be giving talks at conferences, at UN conferences. And then by the end of the year, I calculated my carbon footprint from my travel was 8 times more than an average human being on Earth. So while I was preaching sustainability, I myself was actually part of the big problem. And another interesting thing that we never talk about, and I think it goes into this discussion of circular economy. We talked about e-waste, recycling, and the importance and the manufacturing. What about, we don't think much about agriculture and food systems and how much that affects climate change. And I'm glad we have some number of companies in the food and beverage industry, because obviously this also there is, and I'm going to talk to all of us as South Africans. We all love to have, in our lifestyle, we all like to have our chisanyamas, our braais, our meat. We love it, to have it with our Heineken beers, you know? That's what we, but what does this mean practically? And we are all culprits, because to have that steak, you need to have cows, right? And if you're lucky enough to be somebody who has a cow or a farmer, your cow is actually contributing more emissions, more damaging emissions to climate change than your car, because of the methane gases much more. And so we are contributing to this economy. Okay. Then let's put aside also the vegan ethical concerns or the health concerns about meat, but just environmental. The way we farm our meat, first of all, is not sustainable. We use chemicals. We treat the animals in a very unsustainable way. Then the meat is often exported to Europe, put on planes and on shipments. It's processed by our brothers and sisters in Europe, made into burgers, send it back to our fast food here, and we eat it. And in all this process, there is refrigeration, there's transport, a lot of energy is used. And that makes me wonder, is that really necessary? Generally, even in our agriculture, we need to make changes. We need to do more local food, local is lekker, more organic and properly sustained agriculture, and we need to move away from a meat-based diet as humanity. If we continue like this, we are going to destroy the planet with the resources needed. So these are just some of the bigger macro things that I wanted to put out there. I know this doesn't make me very popular. I probably won't be invited next year to the conference, but I thought we need to be real about what the real issues are. And we have to not just look at environmental by itself, and remember that we have big social problems of poverty, employment, inequality. If you're sitting in this room and you can afford to come to this conference, you're probably part of the 0.5% of South Africans, the wealthiest South Africans. So I just wanted to put these macro issues out before we go into the nitty-gritty things. Apologies for being a bit of a damper.
Not at all. These are things we know. They're things we know, and things we sort of put at the back of our mind, and we continue to do them. In fact, I'm going to take it further. I'm going to, and this will, Lorren, I'll bring you into the conversation. Please take it wherever you want to, but this is just what you've spurred on in my mind. So I remember sitting and doing a conversation about fast fashion. You talk about meat, I'll talk about fashion, okay? Who shops from Shein here? Honestly, put your hand up. I'm going to put my hand up. Shein, come on, don't be shy. We're all guilty of it. Temu, Shein, H&M, not all. Okay. You.
I buy my local culture.
All right, you're amazing. H&M. Okay, guys, whichever way you like it, we all victims of fashion in our own way, but fast fashion being a big problem. Listen to these statistics. Okay, you spoke about the cow. I'm going to speak about what clothing does. Would you believe that fast fashion is one of the most water-intensive industries on Earth. Okay, I can see you, Lorren. This is a good segue into you. 93 billion cubic meters of water are used annually by the fast fashion industry. This is enough water to give 5 million people on Earth, okay, and to let them lead a very healthy life. A single cotton T-shirt, which all of us own, requires 2,700 liters of water to produce. That's the amount that one person drinks in 2.5 years. A pair of jeans, on the other hand, takes 7.5 to 10,000 liters of water for cotton growing and dyeing processes. And finally, my last figure I'm going to give you is the textile industry is responsible for 20% of global wastewater with untreated toxic dyes and chemicals polluting rivers and oceans. We don't think about this stuff. I just see a gorgeous thing and buy it. And then that gorgeous thing is out of fashion and I go buy another gorgeous thing. And this is a problem. It's a big problem. Lorren, I don't know if you want to go there with us, but please do. And then speak more about this whole circular economy and what it's doing to us.
Thanks, Leanne. I think, the stats that you mentioned there are frightening.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we have to acknowledge, and that's what we're trying to do in the circular economy. So when we think about the circular economy, most of us make the mistake of thinking it's about waste management. And it definitely is not about waste management. It might have started that way from the onset during the Ellen MacArthur when she first started bringing into discussion the circular economy. It was about reducing our waste, what can we do with our waste, recycling our waste, and also then dealing with the environmental issues that are associated with it. But we really have to see it in what you're talking about now and the resources, is that the circular economy is really about resource management. Okay, it's about changing our economy and to deal with the resources. And we have really got really scarce resources. We know that we overuse them, specifically in Africa. We like to extract our minerals and our resources and our meats and export them to other countries. And as a result, that leaves us in jeopardy in terms of the resources. We know water is extremely resource. We are a water resource scarce country. We're making use of our resources in a way that is not sustainable. So the circular economy is a mechanism for us to really look at our resources rather than address our waste. Waste is a huge issue, but we can't look at the circular economy as a means to address it. It's like putting a Band-Aid on something that's broken. We're not looking at the root cause. The root cause is really a linear economy. Take, make, waste. The circular economy will change that we start to look at our resources. And how do we do that? Well, we then think, we just talked about EPR, we think that recycling is the answer to the question. No, unfortunately, we cannot recycle ourselves into a circular economy. We have to take a step back, look at our economy, look at our value chains. The circular economy encourages us to look at upstream interventions. Do we really need these products? Do we really need that fast fashion? Do we really need another T-shirt? And really thinking about how do we redesign those products? How do we redesign them in such a way that we make use of alternative materials, or make use of materials that can be recycled further down? Because a lot of the materials we make use of cannot be recycled. They're made up of too many different layers of plastic and things like that. So when we think we're putting our things into the recycle bin, it actually doesn't end up being recycled in the first place. And then to look at midstream interventions and where and how we can look at repurposing, refurbishing, repairing. Repairing is very important. We talked about that. You talked about this morning with the Apple. We need to look at designing things so that they can be repaired. So moving away from the discussion of just thinking that recycling is our answer to our question. And I think in Africa, there's a lot of learnings we can take in this, looking at where and how we, from an African perspective in South Africa, we can look at changing our economy to make it circular, to make sure that our resources are used in a better way, to make sure that we, in this way, are looking at job creation, looking at how we can build entrepreneurship, how we can build communities.
Mm-hmm. And I love that, because we can sort of have this victim mentality. And I'm going to come and quiz you a little bit more about this, because, I mean, with the numbers of, Africa and South Africa and what we contribute, and we sort of think, well, it's not our fault, so why should we do anything? But I'll come back to you on that one. I want to come to the practical example of what corporates can actually do, because this is where Heineken comes into it. And I suppose there's business and governments that can collaborate together to make, to create policies and to create incentives that drive the circular solution. The wonderful thing that I was alluding to that Heineken have done is this every drop counts solution. And I love that idea, I really do. But for those that don't know about it, perhaps you can tell us, but at the same time, talk about how business and governments can work together in this.
No, thank you very much, Leanne. I think one thing about working at Heineken is that you are able to live your purpose. That is the greatest thing about being at Heineken. But taking it into circularity, there are great challenges and great opportunities that are there in transitioning to a circular economy. Looking at South Africa, how it is currently, there's a need for jobs, there's a need for economic growth. And within the space, I think there's great potential for us to achieve what is needed. In terms of government collaborations, I think one key thing that we are missing in South Africa is in terms of policies. Shabeer spoke about the EPR policies. We are imposed with policies. Government comes up with nice policies. We have now the EPR legislation just came into effect recently. We have a nice national waste management strategy. They are all good, but then, for them to be practical, the private sector needs to be involved. I think government needs to start moving into a way where when they are designing policies, they involve the private sector to work on solutions for this country. Another key thing that you spoke about is about circularity not just being about waste. There are great opportunities within circularity, and then I think one key thing that government needs to look into is to incentivize companies and businesses to move into the space. You look at it, from a Heineken perspective, we are increasing our reuse. We are recycling by design. We're increasing our recycling content. Those are things that are needed by most companies, but we're not able to do it alone. Government needs to start incentivizing companies that are doing this so that more and more companies build in and buy into those. Also, importantly, is the fact that looking at how South Africa is now, there's great levels of unemployment. I told you, Leanne, the people that I went to university with, they're still at home. They don't have jobs. And you look at how South Africa is going, issues such as circularities are emerging issues, are emerging concepts that we can look into. The government needs to start looking into how do we skill people, how do we develop people. For me, when people speak about circularity, the first thing that comes to my mind, it's a waste reclaim collecting, but then it goes beyond that. We need innovation within the sector. How do we collaborate with universities to create innovation? How do we get technologies that are worthwhile for this country within the space? We should start looking into that. And another thing that is very concerning as well is that, within the space, public-private partnership has not really been enforced. We are trying as Heineken to partner where is possible with governments, but I think this is a space that we need to look into. South Africa's waste sector is very fragmented. And for a fact, I grew up in a village. I'm a village boy. And most of the time, when I grew up in the village, there was no waste. We were told that you cannot have plastic everywhere. A cow is going to eat that plastic. Now, consumption levels have increased. You get plastics everywhere in the rural sector. There's no infrastructure for waste. So we need to change how we're doing. We need to invest we need to be intentional about what we're doing. We need to invest in infrastructure. We need to have measures that are in place to make a difference within this country.
Yeah. So you've touched on very important issues, and I think one of the big ones should be, and I don't know if you're comfortable tackling this, is the issue of waste. Because when we look at the circular economy, some figures show that I think Africa as a whole generates about 125 million tons of municipal solid waste, and it is massive. This amount here. How can circular models address this?
Yes, you said Africa or South Africa?
I think I'm
no, if I may correct you.
Please correct me.
South Africa generates, well, these are not the latest stats, it's a few years old, but about 110 million tons of municipal solid waste.
And that's just South Africa?
That's purely South Africa.
Sure. Okay.
Now, of that 110 million tons, and I'm going to wear my hat representing the glass recycling company, if I may, and then carry on. Paper and packaging. I talk about paper and packaging. Of the 3.5 million tons placed on the market annually, more than 50% is collected. So for paper and packaging, including glass bottles, which Heineken is a key member of the glass recycling company through the EPR regulations, and prior to the EPR regulations, they were voluntary members as well. So that demonstrates their commitment towards sustainability. However, of that 3.5 million tons, about 1.75 million is collected. So it's less than 2% of the waste, or less than 2% of the waste that ends up in landfill, which is paper and packaging. The challenge we face as a paper and packaging industry is primarily because it is visible. Your big problems are ash from your mines, builder's waste, all of that which is not seen at all. There's illegal dumping, there's all kinds of issues. So paper and packaging as a whole, all the Heineken bottles that go out into there, more than half of them are collected back for recycling. In addition, Heineken has introduced a returnable bottle system where it's also in line with the circular economy, where a single bottle for your beer can do at least 21 trips on average. But a returnable bottle can do as much as 35 trips. So that contributes significantly towards the circular economy as well. Yeah. We've been doing this in Africa where more than 80%, or in South Africa, where more than 80% of malt beer is packaged in returnable bottles. The Europeans have only cottoned on to it not so long ago, where they haven't been meeting their sustainability targets. In the Netherlands, they have started introducing, maybe 20 years ago, returnable bottles. We've been doing this in South Africa for probably 60 or 70 years. So we have a lot of expertise in South Africa, a lot of intellectual knowledge which can be shared with our co-countries in Africa as well to look at more sustainable solutions. But I want to digress a little bit. I think one of our big challenges in terms of sustainability internationally is we've become a richer society. Look at the older days. If a T-shirt is damaged, Leanne wouldn't buy a new one. Her grandmom would repair and stitch it. And as we become a developed country and our economy, as our economy improves, we become a throwaway society. But there's so much we can reuse, we can repair, and it's become an international phenomenon. So really, government needs to work together, industries need to work together, but it's important for us as members of society or communities to also work together. The solution to sustainability is not going to be government, industry, or communities. We all need to work together. We need public-private partnerships, and only then will we start seeing real change. But this requires commitment from all who are in the value chain, including the consumer. Because at the end of the day, we have extended producer responsibility as well. Who pays for it? All of us as consumers. So the more we have to pay, the more the consumer pays at the end of the day. Yeah. So we need a significant mind shift change.
Yeah, there needs to be a huge change. And as you say, yes, we as consumers can dictate that, but we also need help to be able to do this, because if we keep on consuming and buying things that are made to break after X amount of time, we have no option but to actually go out and keep buying, and this is a big problem.
Well, this is capitalism. Sorry, I love capitalism. But
and it is capitalism. Absolutely. We're all in it for the money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's planned obsolescence for most products.
Yeah.
They will last a certain 3 years, and after the warranty, they're dead. You need a new one.
So, Prof, let's come in here. Like, what do we do?
I was thinking, especially the comments that both my two gentlemen and the panel have made about the importance of different partners working together, public and private, to address this problem. And I was thinking, what local solutions do we have as the big... And of my experience, there is a great success story that I have encountered. There's a project, an initiative, actually here in Johannesburg, in a township. It's not even it's an informal settlement. So this is along the line, Madame Megdes it's a project run in the most poorest of the poor informal settlement. It's a place called Itsoseng, around Cosmos City area on the way to Lanseria. This place, you can't get more urban poverty than that. People are living in shacks, no services, because it's not even a township, it's an informal settlement. And this place, this informal settlement, has turned into a dump site. And so you have all the rubbish in the world there, and the children are playing in a very toxic environment with a lot of health risks. And a project has started, the Itsoseng Biocircular Economy Project, which involves several companies, several government institutions, several scientific institutions, universities, including the CSIR. And basically, it is to introduce a new biocircular economy in the township, in the poorest of the poorest. So we don't have to do things how can we make small initiatives even at that level? And basically, what is happening is it's very community-driven. It's bottom-up. There's Mama Kuli and Mama Rose, which are leading this with their youth. And the youth in this community are getting empowered and trained, first to clean up their community. They collect all the rubbish that is dumped by the city. They collect it, differentiate it, and resell it to Impact Recycling, which is a big recycling company. I don't know if they are here in the audience. So they get a bit of money for their subsistence. You're creating new recyclers, new urban recyclers. And then, but the organic waste, which is the most problematic one from the dump sites we talked about, the food waste, it's the most harmful for the ozone. So they are actually processing it locally. They don't have to give it to a fancy plant. We are putting a biodigester there, a biogas system. They put their food waste. It's processed. They get gas. They don't need to steal electricity anymore from ESCOM. They can cook. They can heat up for the shacks and the school there. Then the fertilizer that comes out goes back in their food gardens, improves their food production, the security. They produce more food that they can sell to the market, so they become, and you're not only addressing environmental issues, you're addressing all the social issues, because you're creating new jobs, new SMEs, micro enterprises in the township, because suddenly you have new young recyclers, new young biogas technicians, new farmers, urban farmers. We always thought farming is the old thing, and now we're bringing agriculture back to the city. And we are creating a circular economy. So this is, I think, a beautiful initiative. Lots of partners are involved, and I think if any of the companies here want to be part of this, I'm happy to share more details and put you in touch with this initiative, because it's something that we can do locally, and it's having both an environmental and social impact.
Fantastic. Love that. What a beautiful thing. I would love to come and visit that and see.
Please, we can go together next week.
I really, really would. I mean it, because I think that's just a sterling example of what can be done. We're running into massive time constraints, so I'm not even going to lead you in, because there's been a lot that's been said, Lorren. I don't know if you want to sort of wrap up on your angle and perhaps add something into the conversation.
Yeah, I think we've been talking a lot about waste again, and I just want to reiterate the fact that it's not about waste. And the solutions that we are looking at seem to be end-of-pipe solutions. I really want us to, when we think about the circular economy, to really encourage that re-looking at, rethinking, redesigning our products. Really looking at alternative uses for plastic, for example. And then in terms of end of line, also, you just talked about the composting. I think it's really important. We did touch a bit on food waste. Food waste is a huge, huge problem. We are wasting so much food. We need to look at ways and means to reduce the loss of food. But also in South Africa and the rest of Africa, we need to look at composting options. So most of food gets lost. Unfortunately, in South Africa, we don't have municipal composting sites, so we can't get that composted. So we do need to look at opportunities and how we can better make use of it, so we can return those nutrients back to the soil, because we are so dependent and reliant on food, on agriculture to do it. So we must also see that the circular economy, very importantly, is not just about glass and plastic. The circular economy extends into all sectors. Manufacturing, there's opportunity for circular economy in mining, in human settlements and things like that. It's all about rethinking the way we're doing stuff, rethinking, changing our economy from being a linear-based economy to a circular-based economy. Let's reduce our waste by making sure we redesign our products better.
Amazing. Love that. Monticello, I'm going to leave the final word with you. We haven't even touched on AI, because I know that that's something surely that can help us in the circular economy. I don't know if Heineken use that at all at the moment, or if not, please just leave us with your sort of understanding and ideas of how we can work more in the circular economy.
Yeah, no, Leanne, there are emerging technologies that we are looking at. I think for Heineken, we've got circularity initiatives that we are rolling out across the country. One key thing that we've realized is that amongst people that are working within the circular economy space, they'll be in different areas. So we're putting in technologies like apps to see where the waste is and to drive collections, especially for our returnable bottles in the informal sector. So there is a need for technology and to change how things have been done within the space.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on the technology side of things in the circular economy. Oh, Lorren. How can I not? You look so excited about it. Go for it. Talk to me.
No, I just want to reiterate that the technology and digital application has got a huge importance in this space. But we mustn't be reliant on just overseas-based technology, because that is expensive in South Africa, and we also have a large unemployment rate here. So we need to be able to balance the technology with our employment. But also, we need to look at digital solutions for Africa, from Africa, designed with our circular economy initiatives. We need to look at, when we design that, what digital applications can we have, and it must come from Africa itself. So that means that we have uploaded the skills to do that. We have parts in our own country, developed in our own country, it's able to be done in our own country, not relying on something from Europe, which then requires us to take it back when it's broken. We can fix it and repair it ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, final pearl of wisdom. I'm giving you it's a one-sentence pearl of wisdom. Leave us with something to think about, some food for thought, Shabeer.
Well, on the spot.
Okay. On the spot, just like that.
Well, I believe we need to be optimistic. We certainly can progress significantly towards a circular economy, but we need everyone, all South Africans and Africans, to work together.
Yeah.
That's it.
Prof?
Yeah, two things. The technology question, I don't think we need fancy AI digital. There's simple technologies for this. I mentioned the biodigesters and biocircular system. This is an old 100-year-old technology, and we can use it to achieve circular economy. And my main message, which I said in the beginning, when we talk about sustainability, let's not just focus everything on E. We need to look at the S and the G, and especially in South Africa, the G matters. We have the resources, but we don't manage things properly. There's corruption, there is greed. And so let's focus on S and G along with the E.
Wonderful.
Well, my last message would be, let's find a home for the circular economy in terms of government. There is no necessarily a single government department driving it. Environmental Affairs has been driving it, but it's been from an environmental perspective. But now that we've really seen, it's not about waste management, it's about resource management, it's about industry, it's about economics. Can we find a specific home for it in our government departments, and let's drive it and let's initiate it in our country.
Wonderful. And then finally, Monticello.
I think it's time for us to introspect and be bold. There are little steps that people can do. For instance, your clothing, you need to understand that it can be recycled. We need to support the systems, be it the small enterprises within our communities. How do we enhance them with the waste that we are producing? So I think we need to really be bold as communities, as businesses, and as the government.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you to my panel, Shabeer, Professor Besharati, Dr. Haywood, and Monticello. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause.